Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Today we will be building the Death Star. This was a fun build, and let's see how I did it. If you enjoy these types of videos and want to see more, make sure to click the like button and subscribe. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, because the Death Star is basically a giant sphere, I had to discover how big my plot was. I discovered that the max that I could make the diameter of the sphere was 39 blocks, so I got to work doing that. I started adding details and stuff when I started building, but decided later to just build and then try my best to do things afterwards. And to make this sphere, at least a block version of the sphere, I used a pixel sphere generator, which was very helpful indeed when trying to make this. I had this like cool dandy tool I could go layer by layer, and if you're making any projects that require spheres, I definitely recommend you use that tool. I don't know the website, but if you search up pixel sphere generator, you'll find it on like the first one. At this point, I kept adding details as I built, but around here I stopped doing that, and I just keep working on the sphere's shape. And, you know, I'm chugging along. It's not exactly the most fun process in the world. It's actually very lengthy and very difficult. But I kept going along. I had to take a few breaks. I think this comprised of 2 different clips that I did over a separate amount of time. I also realized while making this that I was quickly running low on blocks, and I was gonna have to find some way to save them so I could use them. Eventually I discovered that my best bet would have been just to keep using blocks, and when I ran out, start using paint blocks, which like half of this is made out of paint blocks. But the shape is still coming along. I decided to try and get that middle area, which is a flat surface, done so I could make the sphere based around that. And I was able to find it. Looking back, I wish I didn't do it so early, so I would have had more wiggle room when doing this, but I think it still came out fine in the end. Now, it's very hard to make a perfect sphere in this game because of the limit of blocks and what you have available to you. I was just doing okay. I think I got the best smooth looking sphere that I got to, but at the end of this first day, I only really got half of the sphere done, which I think is still a pretty good amount of progress for this only being 2 hours long. The second day was much longer, but let's just stick on this first one for now. So I got to this midpoint area right around now where it starts to fold back in on itself, and I started trying to continue the details, adding the central areas into each axis and starting work on the middle. I also, I believe in this day, got a solid look for what the inside of the sphere would look like, or at least the inside triangle area, and I'm pretty happy on how that turned out. But I did want to apologize for making this video too late. I decided that I would focus the channel more on quality of videos rather than the quantity of them, so that's why this video took longer. Sorry if you guys were waiting for this for a while, but here it is now. Here's what I had at the end of day 1. So I messed up when I said that I did the triangle thing on day 1. I actually did the triangle thing on day 2, adding all the triangles and finishing the inside area. So sorry about that. But on this day 2, I started by finishing the bottom half of the sphere and then starting to begin work on the upper half. Actually, this portion of the video was so long that I had to speed it up 80 times to get it to around a place where I could commentate over it and not have to speak for 10 minutes. This being the longest, I also had to take the most breaks during this day. I took about 3 in total, so there are 3 different clips that are all compiled into this one. But during this video, or during this portion, I was able to do the entire rest of the sphere. So it felt pretty good to finish off that. The part I wasn't looking forward to was decorating all of it, because I knew it was going to be a very tedious process. I actually went AFK there for a little bit, just getting a glass of water and stuff like that so I could take a break. But I found it very challenging and was like finding mistakes all the way through the painting day and stuff like that I made that I had to correct. But I was getting there, and I was getting work done, which is what really was important. It's not as smooth as I would have hoped it would be, but I honestly didn't know a better way to do it than by doing it like this, so I just kept going the way I was going. Like I said though, I did wish that I held off on the triangle area until after I built the entire sphere, or at least the upper half of the sphere, so I could see it better, but I am still pretty happy on how that turned out, as you'll see in a minute. It's just a lot of wedges and a little central triangle area. As I start to finish decorating the sphere, I take my third and final break for today and start the coloring process, also the disc. Now, for this, I decided that I wanted to do a disc that rotated and then got locked into place using motor locks instead of trying to make something that looked good, like by making it a part of the sphere itself. And that's what I did. In the end, I'm pretty happy on how it turned out. It took me a while, but I was able to get the placement of the disc correct. I was able to fill in the gap between them, and I was able to fill in the disc the entire way, make it nice and smooth and etc. Now, the painting job of this won't stay for long, and that's what day 3 will be all about. This is what I had by the end of day 2. Like I just said, today was more focused around adding the final details. Sorry this video is a little choppy, it didn't render fully, and it just is a little choppy, but it still gets the point across. I added that little ring that's in the center of the Death Star when you look at their images, and I filled it out with wedges to make it look nice. But mainly today was focused on getting the paint job finished. I started by doing those edges and the centerpiece and then repeating that on all 4 sides, and then I realized that that wasn't really enough, so I added a piece directly in the middle to make it look nice. And that's what I did for the first layer. For the second layer, I basically did the same thing, just down a couple of blocks, and instead of 3, I only did 2. Though a struggle I had while doing this is that there were so many blocks that were just hiding from whichever angle I was watching, and it was hard to do this because I couldn't really figure out which block I was trying to paint from, and that was just making my life a whole lot harder. But I think I got all of them by the end. At least I had to go over it a few times. Now here's what I said I was doing. Instead of fitting 3 in there because I couldn't, I instead fit 2. I know the Death Star is kind of more chaotic than what I did, but I think it looks fine just doing this sort of grid pattern, and I think it came out nicely. Now, the whole time that I was doing this bottom layer, I was worried because I knew the top layer used paint blocks, which if you don't know what paint blocks are, it basically makes it so that the block can be painted differently on each side, but it also means that the sides that aren't painted will kind of stick out a bit. So I was definitely very concerned about that, but it turned out that it didn't really bother me as much as I thought I would. I mean, it didn't bother me nearly at all when I made this first part, when I did the bottom half of the upper top thing. Sorry, I lost my words there for a second, but you know what I mean. During this upper part in the beginning, I wasn't really having an issue with any of the paint blocks, which was very nice, but later on I did get into some paint blocks. Luckily, however, they didn't stick out as bad as I thought they would, and that was definitely really nice. Now, the difference between these is that the top layer isn't as large as the bottom one, because if you don't know how the Death Star looks, it's a light gray area on the top and bottom. The bottom, however, has a smaller light gray area than the top one does, so I had brought this into mind when I was doing this. But I finished up the paint job, and that basically wraps up day 3. Here's my progress at the end of the final day. So, here we have the final version of the Death Star. I made a few changes while I was absent, while I wasn't recording. For instance, I added all that helium so that it would fly up, an anchor block in the middle, and 2 motors to make it so that the Death Star actually spins, which I think was a pretty cool adaptation. I did mess up that area. I'll have to fix that once I'm done here, which I will do. But let's get this started and let's see how it flies, shall we? Now, because my recording software lags the game a bit for me, I decided to speed it up for the interest of saving time, so you can see the extent of what's actually going on while not having to sit and watch me slowly take to the sky and turn. So, as you can see, I locked the disc into place, and I release the anchor block. Now we are slowly flying up into the sky. And it's usually a bit faster than this, but you know, you gotta make do when the server's lagging because of you. But you know, it'll get there eventually. And it flies pretty smooth upwards. It tilts a bit, and that's only happens when you like get faster, but we don't really need to go super far up into the air. We only need to get into the air a little bit to showcase what this can actually do once it's in the air. So I think around now is a good place to stop it and put in the anchor block. I'm just going to flip a bunch of times to make sure that it is fully secure. But as you can see, I connected the motors to A and D, so when I click A, it turns that way, and when I click D, it turns the other way. So I think that was pretty cool. It's normally faster than this. Like I said, all the lag and stuff kind of screwed me over when I'm trying to do a showcase, but if you look carefully, it is actually turning. But I think that's all there is to really show. I mean, I haven't really made an interior for it yet. I added some seats because some people wanted to ride in it at some point, but there's no interior yet, so I might do that in the future. Maybe I'll make a video about it, maybe not, we'll see. Hey, you made it to the end card. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit the like button, and if you want to see a video made on something specific, make sure to leave it in the comment sections below, and I'll be sure to check out every one of them. That being said, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.